friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. Today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up for you. I'm excited because it's only May 4th and I haven't put it off that long. Usually I wait a lot longer, or sometimes I wait a lot longer. I'm trying to get better about that. I'm also going to do the giveaway winners from my 3-year anniversary video that I did with all of my favorites. So many of you commented on there and said such wonderfully kind things about my channel and about me. And I'm just so thrilled and happy that this is still a part of my life, BookTube. That BookTube is still a part of my life. So I have 3 giveaways. I'm giving away Redeeming Love and Beartown and a book $20 at Book Depository. So I will be doing that at the end of the video. I'll put the timestamp down below if you're just interested in that. But before I get into those winners, I'm going to tell you about the massive amounts of reading I did in April. It was a decently big reading month for me, which is awesome because March was huge, reading a book a day, and I wasn't sure if I was going to feel slumpy in April, but I wasn't, not at all. It helped that I participated in 2 readathons during the month. The first week in which I participated in Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand and Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Libraries Booklist Readathon. And I completed 3 books during that week. So I will start by telling you about those 3 books. The first book I read during the Booklist Readathon was The Girl Who Chased the Moon by Sarah Addison Allen. I was thrilled to read this because Sarah Addison Allen is one of the authors I own multiple books from but hadn't yet read. Now I have. And this was a very sweet, southern, charming, magical realism book about this young woman, Emily, who moves in with her grandfather in a North Carolina town, hoping to find out more about her mom and the secrets of her life and why she left the town so suddenly. And there's quite a disparaging difference between the mom that she knew and the mom that people and the woman that people talk about in the town and how they remember her. So she's trying to figure all of this out. In the midst of that, we have these twinkling lights in the woods at night and wallpaper that changes based on her mood. It was very charming and sweet, and I really, really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read in April was a sequel off of my sequel shelf right behind me, and it is Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. I cannot tell you very much about this, but it is the second in the Grisha trilogy, and we continue to follow Alina and Mal and their fight against the darkness and the Dark One, the Darkling. Magic-filled, part of the time is spent on a boat. I also gave this one 4 stars. I'm really enjoying this trilogy. I loved Leigh Bardugo's duology, 6 of Crows and Cricket Kingdom, and I'm enjoying this one not quite as much, but I am very interested in finishing this trilogy, and I have Ruin and Rising out from the library right now. It was a relatively quick read, even though it was pretty chunky. I'm glad that I read that one. The third book that I finished that first week of April during the Booklist Readathon is a book that was recommended by Sarah many times on her channel, and I just, every time she talked about it, I knew I wanted to read it, and that is The Life She Was Given by Ellen Marie Wiseman. In this one, we follow a little girl named Lily who is kept up in the attic by her mom and dad, and we're not really sure why at first, but then one day her mom takes her from the attic and sells her, I think she's 9 or 10 years old, and sells her to a circus, which is just horrifying. And then we follow this little girl as she is raised by people in the circus and the things that she has to go through. You learn why her parents kept her in the attic, and there are some twists at the end that were pretty shocking. I think I also gave this one 4 stars. I did really enjoy it, even though some of the characters made me very angry, and there was a couple scenes, especially towards the end, of some things that happened to the animals in the circus, in particular the elephants, that were absolutely horrifying. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. I definitely am interested in reading more from Ellen Marie Wiseman. And yeah, it was a little bit heartbreaking. It was pretty sad. The other readathon that I participated in April was the book Buddyathon, which they had made this awesome little bingo card. And I was aiming to in my TBR, I picked out books for all of the squares, but I only ended up getting one bingo. I did fill in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I did fill in 11 out of the 16 squares, but somehow that only makes one bingo based on how they're spread out. So I did pretty well. I think I did really well. I really enjoyed connecting with Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand, who was my buddy for the Bookbudyathon. So that was a lot of fun. But one of the challenges was a comfort read, and for that I actually have two. I got caught up in the Betsy Tacy read along that's happening in 2019, and I read Heavens to Betsy, and then at the end of the month I squeaked in Betsy in Spite of Herself. I actually finished this on May 1st. But we're going to count it for April. I am enjoying this series more and more and more as we go along. In these two, Betsy is a freshman in high school and then a sophomore in high school. And it's just fun seeing her friendships develop, the crowd that she goes around with. She calls them the crowd, filled with both boys and girls, and her desire to have a big romance and a love affair, and kind of in Betsy, in Spite of Herself, she's really kind of coming into her own a little bit. She wants to be this more glamorous, beautiful type of person, and she tries to change, but realizes by the end that who she is, at her truest self, is good enough and is pretty awesome. Yeah, these are just very fun. I especially love Mr. Ray, the father in these books. He reminds me a lot of my dad, and it makes me pretty nostalgic for him. It makes me miss him. I'm loving more and more the shenanigans that Betsy gets up to, and yeah, just really enjoying these. I think I gave both of them 4 stars. I did a buddy read. I did a couple buddy reads. Obviously, it was the Bookbudyathon, but the first book that I read with Sarah was The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is a thriller, and I don't read very many thrillers, but this was really good. In this book, we mainly follow this woman named Alicia, who at the very beginning we learn is convicted of killing her husband, shooting him 5 times in the face, and then immediately stops talking, and she is sent to a psychiatric hospital. Crazy. And Theo is a psychotherapist who is very intrigued by her story. He wants to be the one to kind of not break her, but make her talk and figure out and help her to heal. It had some twists in there. It kept me guessing. It was a very compelling read. There was a bit of infidelity, which you guys, if you watch my channel, know that I'm not thrilled with, but it's definitely wasn't glorified or a major part of the story at all. Yeah, it was enough. I definitely thought it was a page turner and very compelling. I ended up giving it 5 stars because it surprised me that I liked it as much as I did, and I loved reading it with Sarah. If you're interested in a good thriller that's pretty new, this is a good one. Check it out. I did another buddy read, the next couple actually. I was part of an Instagram group buddy read for Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. I love Kristen Hanna, as you know if you've been around here for very long. I just love how she tells a story, and I did give this one 5 stars, even though I really was frustrated with one of the friends in this. There's these 2 women, Kate and Tully, and we follow them from when they're quite young through decades of their friendship. And I just got so mad at Tully all the way through this book. I just found her to be very selfish and not a good friend. And I was frustrated with Kate because I felt like she needed to stand up for herself a little bit more. But they had a true friendship that lasted for such a long time, and they felt like real people because they were definitely flawed characters. They weren't glorified or perfect or in any way, either one of them. As always with Kristen Hanna, have tissues ready if you read this one, because the ending, I was crying. I was definitely crying. I loved it. Loved it. Then for my in real life book club, I read Rules of Civility by Amor Towles. This is a book I've had on my shelf for a while, have heard such good things about it on BookTube, and I'm glad that I read it. I did listen to the audio of this one, even though I own the hard copy. This is set in 1 year, in 1938, I want to say. We followed a 25-year-old Katie Content and her life through this year that was a very pivotal year in her life. It kind of starts, actually, it's bookended by a future Katie and her husband. They see these pictures, they go to this art show and see these pictures in which she recognizes somebody, a man who was a part of her life during this year. And so we just follow her through this year. It's in 1930s. Jazz, drinking, and party life, late nights is a big part of New York City scene. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I gave it 4 stars. I thought New York City totally came alive during that age. At least one aspect of New York City totally came alive, and the dialogue was snappy and witty and fun. Katie was an interesting and fun character to read about. She had a lot of wit, a lot of dry wit, and was pretty strong character. I didn't like her friend Eva, especially after just reading this one where Tully, I felt, was such a selfish character. I felt like Eva, her good friend at the beginning of the year at least, was very much a Tully type character, just kind of manipulative and worked things to her own advantage in a way. Yeah, I really did enjoy this. Then I completed a chunker for my Goodreads read-along group, and it's East of Eden by John Steinbeck. And this was a pretty big disappointment to me. I was really, really, really hoping to love this book. So many people on BookTube love it. It is a John Steinbeck darling here on BookTube, and it has so many 5 stars, and so many people who I know and love loved this book. But it was so hard for me to find motivation to pick it up. I was not at all ever really interested in it until like more than halfway through, when the focus shifts from Adam. Let me back up. This follows kind of 2 different families in this California valley, the Salinas Valley, an agricultural area in California. We follow Adam Trask, and who moves there with his wife, Catherine, who's a horrible person, like straight evil. But even before that, we follow Adam with his brother Charles and the fallout that they have. I didn't care for Adam's character ever in this book, and so it was hard for me to want to continue to read about him. Once he moves there, we also learn about the Hamilton family, in particular Samuel, the father. And I did enjoy the Hamilton family and found that their dynamic with each other was very interesting. Each of the different children and the mom and the dad. Yeah, I did like that part of the story. I just didn't care until we get towards the end of the book, where we start to follow Adam's 2 children, his 2 sons, twin boys, Cal and Aaron. And we kind of have, well, Adam too, it's kind of like this retelling of the beginning of the world, like Genesis. So we have Adam, and the brothers are supposed to be kind of a take on Cain and Abel from Genesis in the Bible, where one is like the beloved son, and everybody loves him, and the other is kind of like the dark horse and just has a harder way of things. And I really felt so much for Cal in the second part of the book. I felt he was so misunderstood, and he was trying so hard at times, but really you could feel the struggle between good and evil within him, like making the right choices and doing the right thing. I felt like his character was so well developed. I don't know. I gave it 3 stars in the end. I thought there were definitely some really great parts of this book. I just didn't fall in love with it like everybody else did, or like so many other people did. And maybe not everybody, but so many others. It just wasn't for me, and I don't think it was that it was a classic. I do feel like if I had studied this in a class, maybe in school, I could have gotten more out of it, but just as a read kind of for my own enjoyment, it wasn't, I didn't really enjoy it all that much. I can't give it less than a 3 stars because I do see the quality in it. I just didn't love it. So that was kind of a big disappointment. I did pick up a graphic novel this month, and I'll put the picture here. I heard about this from a long time ago, Julie from A Girl in a Book, and I think Katie at Life Between Words also read this one. It's called Lighter Than My Shadow, and I honestly forget who wrote it. Let me see if I have it in here. Oh, Katie Green is the author, and this is a graphic memoir about a girl who struggled with food for her whole life and ended up having eating disorders and suffered abuse at the hands of people who were supposed to be helping her with these things. Sexual abuse, and how that impacted her as well. I read this through my Hoopla app on my phone, which was not ideal because I had to keep zooming in the pictures to see them. So I love that there's graphic novels on Hoopla, but maybe if I had done it through a tablet or my computer, it would have been a little easier. It was difficult on the size of my phone screen. But I did give this 4 stars. I thought it was very insightful, and it was sad. It was very sad, but I know a number of people in my life who have struggled with eating disorders in particular, and I don't have the greatest relationship with food either. So yeah, it was hard. It was pretty graphic at times, but it was very emotional, but I thought it was a great graphic novel. I'm glad that I read it. The last buddy read that I read during the month of April, I loved, and I read this with Sarah and Lindsay, who I've already talked about, and we read The Home for Unwanted Girls by Joanna Goodman. This might be my favorite read of the month. I did give this 4 stars. I did only give it 4 stars, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But in this book, we follow Maggie, and Maggie is a young teen when she has a child, and she lives in Quebec, Canada in the 1950s, or it's during the 1950s in Canada, where teen moms is like very frowned upon. Her parents forced her to give up the baby. So in this book, we follow Maggie and the impact of having to give away her child throughout her life, as well as we follow Elodie, the baby that she had to give up. And Elodie is placed in an orphanage, but about 5 years later, Duplessis, who was the premier of Quebec at the time, and the Catholic Church, they changed all of the orphanages into mental institutions, because per head you get more funding if it's a mental institution as opposed to an orphanage. So all hundreds, thousands, possibly children were labeled with some sort of mental illness so that it made sense for them to be in a mental institution. So in a moment, these children, girls in particular, where Elodie was staying, who had freedom to go outside and had school every day, automatically were then, all of that stopped, and they were like put in much, much worse conditions. And actually, she was like 5 or 6 years old and was forced to help care for, they bussed in even more true mental patients, and these little girls were forced to help care for these mental patients, and she suffered abuse and horrible situations. And then on the other side, we also follow Maggie, who is kept away from the father of her child because of racial issues. It was interesting to learn to see a little bit of the depth of prejudice between the English and the French in Quebec during that time. I was not really aware of anything really of Canada's history. It's so sad. They're my neighbors, and I didn't know very much. And this is a true situation. Like they're called the Duplessis orphans. I went on a rabbit hole of looking things up on YouTube, on Google, trying to learn more about the situation. It's just horrifying. Girls were abused and even died. Many even died. And it all kind of got brushed under the rug, even once things changed. Nobody really came forward and apologized. There was this sad attempt to financially compensate these kids. Anyways, I loved this book. It was infuriating for most of the book. I was so angry with almost all of the characters. By the end, there was such a good arc to it that I could understand. I had to keep stopping myself from applying 2019 values to 1950 because things were so different back then. However, even with things being so different, just the way that even the parents talked to Maggie, the things that they said to her, the things that they did, the choices they made, it just was all so infuriating. And then by the end, I just wanted more of the ending. I mean, we kind of are building up to this ending, and then it all happened so quick at the ending, and I just wanted more from it, maybe an epilogue. Just tell me more. And so that's the only reason I knocked down a star, because I really felt like you could have given me a little bit more, Joanna. But I did really enjoy this book. It was heartbreaking and infuriating. And finally, I have one book I want to just mention that I DNF'd this month. And this is sad because this was a buddy read as well. And I made it. Look how far. I read all of this and I just had this much left. But I couldn't do it anymore. The Secret History by Donna Tartt just is not for me. I was reading this with Steffi from Fun Size Steffi, and she DNF'd it as well. I made it so far. I hated this book. I hated the characters and their pretentious privilege. We follow a group of college students who are studying like classical Greek and things like that, and they're very elitist and think that they can get away with things that are just awful. And the rest of the college is filled with, I mean, all we really hear about are these parties where everybody's getting drunk and doing drugs. And I'm sure that that's a huge part of college life. I mean, I know it is, but I just didn't care. And our main character was so passive and so like annoying. He just wanted to be a part of this group, but wasn't ever really allowed inside. I don't know. It just was getting worse and worse. And then I asked on Instagram if it was worth finishing if I have made it this far. And a lot of people, more than I normally get that comment on my stories, said don't bother. So I didn't bother. I DNF'd it, and I'm passing this one on. It is not staying on my shelves. Here, I'll take out Secret History. So here are the 11, well, Lighter Than My Shadow's not on here, but here are the books that I read in the month of April. I would love to chat with you in the comments like always. What are some books that you loved during the month of April? Do you have any to recommend to me? Have you read any of these? Did you feel the same way I did about any of these? Or did you feel differently than I did? Let's talk about it down in the comments below, or about anything else. You guys know I love talking with you down in the comments. Give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Oh! Before I leave, I need to do giveaways. Let me do that real quick. So first, I'm going to do the giveaway for Beartown. I had 39 people who wanted to win Beartown, and so I'm going to generate a number 1 through 39, and then go over to my spreadsheet and see who that is. And it's number 29, Jessica Brasiel. I don't know how to say it. Jessica Brasiel. I have them right here. You are the winner of Beartown. So Jessica, if you can message me on Instagram or on my email, all of that info is going to be in the description box below. Message me your address and I will get Beartown in the mail to you. And then I had from 40 to 62 people who wanted to win Redeeming Love. And the number is 48, and that is Chelsea Andrews. Chelsea Andrews, congratulations, you have won the copy of Redeeming Love. So again, if you could message me on one of those ways down in the box and let me know your address, and I will get Redeeming Love in the mail to you. Congratulations. And then for everybody, I put the link to the video in YouTube comment picker, and I am going to see who it is. It's going whoosh, 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 whoosh. And the winner is dun, 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 Abby Barton. Abby, congratulations. You are the winner of $20 at Book Depositories. What you need to do is message me in one of the ways down below and let me know what you would like to get from Book Depository. Again, you have up to $20 to spend and I will pick them for you. And oh yeah, you need to give me your address as well. Yeah, and that's it. Congratulations everybody, and thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of this little corner of the internet. I love it, and I love you guys, and that's it. Again, give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below about anything. Let's chat. I'll talk to you in another video very soon. Bye!